Hello. Well, I promised you the other day I was going to try to get a video made of the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. That is probably about 30 kilometers north of Longview. I don't know how familiar I might be with the area, but we got the Kananaskis Trail over there, which runs all the way to Canmore, about 180 kilometers away. Actually, it runs to Trans-Canada Highway, and then Canmore is about 20 kilometers down off the Trans-Canada Highway. But I wanted to show you what the foothills look like. There's other spots that I can stop that have terrific views as well, but it's extremely windy here today. It's warmed up nice though, probably about 6 degrees Celsius I would think, but it's a Chinook, and whenever we get a Chinook here, we're going to get this wind. Anyhow, I wanted to do this. I wanted to stop and show you this, and I also wanted to read a quick email or two while I was here, so let's get to it. Hello Lee, my name is Cynthia. A friend of mine told me that I should send you my story because she and everyone else believes that I experienced a miracle. But I don't feel comfortable including my last name. I hope you understand. That's fine, I completely understand. And that's why in the videos I often try to include the message that whether or not you give us your name is totally up to you, and I'll honor whatever your wishes are. We just like being able to share positive stories, positive experiences of your faith and answered prayers. So thank you for sharing, we do appreciate it. Anyhow, Cindy continues, it was only a few days after I'd given birth to our son, so I wasn't in the best of shape, when my husband and I decided to go outside and get some exercise. It was such a beautiful day. The sun was shining, and we figured we wouldn't do anything strenuous, maybe just take a short walk. Still, it wasn't long after we'd left that I began to realize something wasn't right. I started having difficulty breathing and soon had to stop as I was gasping for air. Neither me nor my husband had any idea what could be wrong, and the next thing we knew, I'd fainted on the sidewalk. Fortunately, a neighbor had seen what happened and called the paramedics. My husband says that by the time they arrived, I was pale, sweaty, and my lips had turned blue. During the ride to the hospital, I think I came to once, just for a moment, because I remember wondering where I was and what was going on. That was it. I found out later that shortly afterwards, I'd stopped breathing and that the paramedics had to perform CPR to bring me back. Though by the time we reached the hospital, I was breathing again on my own. The doctors immediately discovered that my blood pressure had bottomed out, but they didn't know why. They intubated me, and my husband said he began to pray as he watched them trying to keep me alive. He told me afterwards that I wouldn't stop grabbing and pulling on my breathing tube, fighting for every breath. And that's when his hope began to grow that I was going to make it, as he saw me fighting and realized I wasn't giving up. Finally, the doctors discovered my problem. Somehow, I had developed blood clots in both lungs. So they immediately started me on blood thinners to help break them up. Unfortunately, that didn't seem to help though, so they called the cardiac surgeon to the emergency room. He ordered immediate CAT scans to confirm their diagnosis and found that 2 large blood clots had almost completely blocked both my lungs. They put me on life support, but my blood pressure continued to drop. It was then determined that I needed surgery right away. But the surgeon was concerned because the blood thinning medication they'd started me on would make surgery almost impossible and extremely risky. But he determined I had no chance otherwise. The doctor told my husband that if the blood clots weren't removed right away, I would die. He also told him that either way there was no guarantee. My husband came into the room and we held hands and prayed together. Then before either of us had the chance to say everything we needed to or wanted to, I was wheeled into the operating room. It was the hardest thing either of us have ever had to face. While I was in surgery, members of our church family and friends gathered in the waiting room and prayed. My friend, who told me to write to you, said it was like a massive charge of energy happened in the room. You could feel it, especially after we decided we were going to stand and hold hands and pray to God from a position of strength. I was in surgery for more than 2 hours. When the surgeon came out and told my husband that the first step had went well, but that he needed everyone to continue to pray. The surgeon came out and told my husband that the first step had went well, but that he needed everyone to continue to pray. My husband asked him if he was telling him everything. The doctor said yes, and it's amazing to be able to say that because 2 hours ago, I didn't think your wife could survive the operation. Well, after I made it through surgery, I went into a coma. And now the question was, had I suffered brain damage due to oxygen starvation? The only thing my husband, family, and friends could do was pray. They decided to take turns, remaining with him at the hospital around the clock and praying with him. After 3 days, I finally woke up, and I've been okay ever since. My doctor and surgeons were amazed and told my husband that a miracle had taken place because only 1 in 500,000 people survived the removal of a double pulmonary embolism. And then, on top of that, they'd had to deal with the complication of me already being treated with blood thinners. A week later, when I went back in to see the surgeon in his office, he told me that it was amazing for him to see me there with my children. He told me that God had to have been looking over me because it wasn't science. Everything that happened during surgery had to go perfect for me to survive. And he was amazed, and that it was something he would never forget. Myself, I sometimes feel that everyone who was there that day had more of a profound experience than me, even though it happened to me. They've all told me how much greater their faith has grown in God. I could never have imagined that something life-threatening to me could have such an amazing positive effect on other people. It had to have been God's doing, because it's way beyond any person's understanding. Have a great day, Cynthia. Well, Cynthia, thank you for your email. That is an amazing story. I had a blood clot once in one lung, and I found it when I got up in the morning and tried to go upstairs and couldn't breathe. And of course, like most men, I went back downstairs and had a coffee. But then later on, when I went back upstairs again, and I knew something was worse than what I had imagined, but I never had a double embolism. I can't imagine because I couldn't get air with one. But I appreciate you greatly sending your story in. You know, I think the beautiful part about that is that when you said it had a more profound effect on your friends and family and church members than yourself. And that's understandable. And that's why I like to share these emails with people, because it's our faith strengthens others' faith. There's no doubt about it. When we hear of someone who's overcome something because of a prayer or because of their faith, or when someone's faith has given them the strength to carry on, it tells us all that it's possible and that God's there for us. So I appreciate it greatly. Okay, this next one is not an email I received, but a story I came across when I first lost my job at the beginning of the COVID-19 shutdowns, and I liked it. It gave me hope, because it shows us that often what can appear to be a major setback isn't always so. And in this particular case, even though I haven't returned to work, it's led me to doing these videos, with something I never thought I would enjoy. And I've never even owned a camera before, except for back in about the early 70s. I think I got a Polaroid land camera for Christmas once, one of those little cameras that the picture comes out. But I thought it was a major setback. I mean, obviously I'd like to retire at some point, but you know what? Money isn't something that I've always chased. So I found this new thing that I'm doing. The first types of videos I did, I didn't mind it, but what I'm doing right now is, this is it, man. This has got my total 100% attention. So anyhow, let me read this story, and then we'll finish off for the day. So here goes. I was finishing my 4th year of running a small biotech company and had just delivered a new multi-million-dollar sales contract to our parent company 2 months before. Friday afternoon, my phone rang and my boss told me that they wanted to fly me to home office Monday night to discuss my departure from the company. Well, that reminds me very much of my situation. I happened to be at home when I got a phone call. The blood drained from my head. What? How was I going to be able to pay the mortgage, electricity bill, purchase groceries, or pay college tuition? I prayed, "Oh God, where are you now? Why is this happening to me?" Flying back from the meeting after receiving the 2-month severance pay my contract provided for, I was frantic, trying to think of ways to make the money last for more than 2 months. I prayed again for God's guidance and for a new job, and I began to put together a plan. I immediately contacted and started networking with old buddies in the industry. Everyone said they would keep their ears open for a position. Some even offered to find a project to keep me going, but most of the promises soon dead-ended. I continued to pray for help. Then one of my buddies came through on his offer with 3 separate projects he needed for me to complete for him. That gave me 1 more month's income to put in the bank. Thanksgiving and Christmas soon arrived, and business came to a screeching halt. I decided I wasn't going to let it get me down, and I was determined to enjoy the holidays with family and friends. And so I continued to pray to the Lord for strength and guidance. Over the holidays, I was offered the opportunity of a lifetime to be a founding officer of a startup company. The focus of the company fit exactly into my background and talents, and what's more, the other officers and board members were either old friends or very likable people, and doesn't that make a difference? But there was a hitch to this new great job. The position didn't start immediately, and I had to financially hold tight for almost 6 months to the day. That was impossible, or was it? It was then that I remembered some of my old Bible studies and became convinced that if God was delivering this opportunity to me, He would also make things work. With His guidance, He would lead me, and I would just have to trust Him. Okay, I heard myself saying out loud, lead on, God. 3 more weeks and no new projects became available. Then one day I was to meet an old friend for lunch. Now every month we would go out to lunch, and the alternate was the one who was supposed to pay the bill. And it was my turn, and I was running out of money. But I met him anyway, and thank God I did. After we greeted each other, the first thing out of his mouth was that he just lost 2 of his 3 employees and that he needed help completing 9 projects. And the work would take approximately 6 months to finish, almost exactly the same time period I needed to find a job for. He offered me the position and a salary that would just allow me to last until my other position began. God was providing for me again, and that lunch conversation was definite proof of that. Now I have started this position with him, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity. As for the once-in-a-lifetime position, my hopes remain high that all will be worked out, but the most important thing I'm doing right now is I'm again relearning how to trust in God. He knows what we need, when we need it, and how we need it. And boy, how I need Him. And that is a fantastic, that's a like to read. Which brings me to the point, if you do have a story, an experience that you'd like to share, please email it to us. Include your name or not. I won't disclose it unless you give me permission. And it doesn't have to be a miracle story. It's just, I just want stories from people about how their faith helped them overcome an obstacle, helped them to continue going on through an obstacle, you know, whether a sickness, a loss of job, it could be anything, or how maybe an answered prayer gave them the strength to continue on. So please send those emails in to us. The email address is therockymountainview@gmail.com. That's one long word, no capitals, therockymountainview@gmail.com. I'll include this address in the video description at the end. So if you're thinking about it at all, please do it. Because I know one thing, and I'm speaking from the heart here. When you share an email or share an experience of your faith and how it's helped you overcome something, it helps strengthen and bolster the strength of people who hear about it. There's no doubt at all about it. I guarantee you, we've all experienced it a million times, or maybe not a million times, but we've all experienced that numerous times. Plus, when you affirm it, you're also affirming that your faith in God is well placed. It helps you to increase your faith, but it also affirms to the Lord that you know that you've received blessings from Him. So please, email those in, and before I go, I'll swing my camera around, try to give you a little bit of a shot to give you an idea of exactly what the terrain like here is about. Very windy, very uneven. As I mentioned though, they've got the foothills there. The Rockies start right about in this area here and start running down for the next however many hundreds of miles. So here I'll do a quick pan around. Thank you very much, and may God bless you. Have a great day. Had my eye open for wildlife today. There really hasn't been anything. It's just the starting of the end of the hibernation for the bears, so I got my bear spray. And I'll be honest, I'm a little trepidatious about that. I've come across grizzlies out here before. But that'll give you a good idea of where we're at and what type of view we have. Again, have a great day and thank you very much. Bye now.